Welcome back to the class, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about team compositions. More importantly, what not to do with them. I'm on quite a few Discord servers and I got a lot of screenshots from people asking about certain team comps saying, hey, is this right? Am I missing something? And I want to address the top 10 most common ones that I've seen either from my opponents or from my friends' opponents and how we can avoid them and what characters really should be in their place. So to look at this practically, let's go ahead and just get into it. So first off, we have this team with Darth Malcus. This is a good example. One of the things that we're going to be focusing on here is when there is a specific line, or lines rather, in one of the most important character of the team's kits that says, hey, you can't have this type of faction, or it has to be this type of faction in there, and you'll ruin it. Again, practicality. What does this actually look like? If we look at this Malgus team, at first it kind of looks okay. Everyone is Sith Empire here. You've got some nice synergy with fear and shock and stuff like that. But ultimately, HK here is taking so much more away than he's really giving to the team. If we open up Malgus's kit, we do see a lot of lines that refer to Sith Empire, but if we go down to HK's kit, since he's a robot, or a droid rather, he doesn't actually have the Sith tag, and when you take that away from Malgus, it's really bad. Like, it's really, really bad what that does to him. If you scroll down to the GAC portion of his kit, which this actually does go beyond GAC as well, he loses this huge 50% max health, max protection, and 60 speed bonus. Not only is that important because he's a tank and he wants to survive, but Malcus's damage from Dark Deception is based off of his max health. So if you're handicapping your health by putting HK there, not only are you devaluing your tank, but you're also getting rid of probably the biggest hitting attack you have on your entire team. To topple it, Korriban's Legacy, which this is not a well, there's a GAC Omicron here, but there are parts of this that affect all game modes when you're using Malgus. If all eyes were Sith at the start of the battle, at the start of each encounter, Darth Malcus taunts for 2 turns. So you lose your pre-taunt. So not only does this become weaker, but you start to be opening yourselves up to other counters like bounty hunters who now can avoid hitting the character in the leader spot. They can hit whoever they want. They can get contract and, just delete Malgus. And then whenever doubt expires on an enemy that enemies inflicted with fear for 1 turn, you lose all of that. Like, you get the first doubt out, but it doesn't spread. It doesn't turn into fear. It's just such a huge handicap for what HK is adding is very, very little. I mean, he has AoE tenacity down. He has some damage, but this team just doesn't lack damage. So, again, one mistake to avoid is by putting a non-Sith here. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to either have a Sith Empire that is a Sith, which is, all the rest of the Marauder, even Set. I would suggest Marauder or Assassin. They're both pretty viable. Set is okay. But even you're better off like putting Talon or like even Dooku to have some shock center, just not to lose those bonuses. You really don't lose anything by not having a Sith Empire. They just don't get a lot of the bonuses that come with Malgus. So the next team we want to look at is Iden. This is again a very much a GAC team, and for those who know what you're doing with Iden, this right here is really bad. So she's an Imperial Trooper later, and at first you're like, oh, that makes sense. Moff Gideon, Dark Trooper, they're really good Imperial Troopers. Except for when you start to open her kit. Again, with her leadership and her unique, she has so many clauses that are so crucial to her kit that specifically say you can't use droids or leaders. So whenever a non-droid or Imperial ally attacks at a turn, they gain 2% offense stacking. So you lose all of that when you have those in there. And you lose as well all this bonuses down here at the start of the battle. If no other allies have the leader ability, Imperial Troopers also gain 35% health and max protection, just a ton of bonuses. And it doesn't even stop there. Similar to Malgus, when you pull up her unique, you start to lose more stuff. If all other allies have the leader tag, or if no all other allies have the leader tag, and all other allies are non-droid Imperial Troopers, Iden gains 100% turn meter. So you lose that. You lose also a revive. There's just so much stuff going on. And I've seen this comp, not so much in GAC. Most of my opponents kind of know what they're doing, but I've seen it a few times in Territory where I'm just like, what are you guys doing? Like, not only do you ruin the Iden team, but Moff Gideon and Dark are really good in other squads that aren't this one. So you're kind of ruining 2 things with one. Next up, I have never actually seen this exact squad here, but I've seen variations of this. What we have here is the Qui Gon Jin team, primarily used in GAC because of the Omicron, and there's a few things that we need to address here. Number 1, the team needs to be entirely Galactic Republic, and number 2, you really want, well, the team needs to be entirely Jedi, and you really want it to also be entirely Galactic Republic, and there's a few reasons for that. If you look at his Omicron, at the start of the battle if there are no Galactic Legends and all other allies are Jedi. I've only seen this once, but I've seen it Padme in there because, you know, Padme and Jedi Anakin have synergy. She's also Galactic Republic. No, just completely ruins the whole Omicron. You don't get your bonus speed. You don't get the offense, or you do get the bonus speed, but you don't get the huge offensive bonus that comes with the Omicron. The other thing that I've seen, which is super common, is putting characters like Old Ben and Ezra in here because they're Jedi. And while they don't break Qui Gon Jinn's claws, they do break two other really important ones. Number one being you lose the 100% bonus damage from having all Galactic Republic allies on Jedi Anakin, which is really what separates this team from other ones, because when he gets ticked off, uses his big AoE and just destroys everyone, you lose a big portion of that by having characters that aren't Galactic Republic there. Not everybody uses Cam in this team, so this is a little less applicable, but it's worth mentioning. If you don't have Galactic Republic Jedi here as well, again, the two things we just talked about, you don't get 30 speed, 40% max health, and 20% offense, which again, that speed translates to more offense. It's actually 900 flat offense right there. So just a ton of bonuses you're handicapping yourself with if you're putting any character that doesn't specifically meet the criteria of Galactic Republic Jedi. There's a ton of characters that can actually fit in there. You don't even need to have good ones. They can be some of the bad Jedi Galactic Republic. Like, you can put Luminar in here. Mace is very good, but you can even put like Jedi Consular. Like, Jedi Consular is better than Padme or Old Ben here, just because of what he's offering from the other character's synergy that is asking you specifically to not do those other things. This one isn't as big of a deal, but I see it a lot because all 5 of these are characters that are required for Profundity, so you kind of put them together and you probably do it for a small time, and that's okay, but ultimately you really want to work another Rogue One character in here. And the team appears to be a Rebel team, but it's really a Rogue One team. You start to lose not only abilities that, you know, you would only get if you were Rogue One. It looks like Bista needs a mod, but you're also going to end up not getting your ultimate a lot slower. So whether you're using this team on offense or defense, if you look how the progression for the upload goes, not having one character, even if the character is kind of garbage, they just have to be Rogue One and they will be able to work towards this. And by putting a character like Hera, or really any other Rebel for that matter, or any other character in general, they don't get to work towards that progression at all. It comes out slower, and it can really cost you the whole battle if you don't get to that ultimate quickly enough, because that really seals the deal. That's how this team kills most things, is by once you get to the ultimate, I've said ultimate like 16 times now, you zap the entire team's protection and they can't heal for like 4 whole turns. So kind of a big deal. You want to take advantage of it. Don't mess it up by putting a character like Hera in there. This one, I feel like people have learned their lesson by now. I've only seen it a few times, but long story short, in GAC, Wampa's Omicron is only active if he is alone, if there are no other active allies at the start of the battle. I've seen this a few times. I've seen people try to put Watt in there. I've seen them try to do like Farm Boy Luke to gain tenacity, which is kind of a joke because Farm Boy Luke lead has 45% tenacity. The Omicron is 100 plus, you know, more tenacity down here. Like, it's not good. You don't want to do that. So definitely, if you ever use Wampa in GAC, ever, he pretty much just needs to be alone unless you're doing something really weird on defense with him, which I wouldn't probably advise that. This one is a little bit trickier because it's kind of like an old habits die hard. For a while, Crew Lead paired really stinking well with Barriss because it doubled the amount of recovery he would get when he would get crit. That's part of his lead and part of Barriss's unique, which is not subject to characters outside of her factions, Galactic Republic Jedi. But the thing that happened, and this, I remember when this happened, when Huck's kit got revised a long time ago to make it so that if all allies are First Order at the start of the battle, enemies can't gain bonus turn meter while General Hux has an advantage. This might be the most important part of Hux's kit in general, is the fact that any enemy, except Marin I guess now, can't gain turn meter against the First Order team when he has advantage. If you stick any other character, I don't care if it's Barriss or Watt or whatever, the second you put them in, that goes away. You don't get to stop turn meter, and then a plethora of counters that would not have beat this team before are now going to beat them. just because turn meter is allowed. Emperor Palpatine and JTR are the first two that kind of come to mind that just suddenly beat this team, whereas they don't with Hux in there. Next one up, this is going to be very similar to the AdRad Rogue One squad that we saw before. You're not really completely destroying yourself by having non-rebel fighters in here, but Mon Mothma really wants to have rebel fighters rather than just rebels. One of the issues is, actually maybe the only issue, is you lose this huge bonus at the very beginning of the battle. If Mon Mothma is the leader slot, which he is, and all rebel fighter allies gain 8% of their combined base, max health, max protection, offense, defense, potency, and tenacity. So this huge stat sharing, which is really meant to kind of be like a lazy way to rework older characters, basically so you can throw in whatever really old rebel fighter like Wedge or Biggs or Hoth, Rebel, Scout, whatever they are, gives them a really nice stat boost to help them kind of take on modern teams. The issue is when you stick characters like Princess Leia or Captain Han Solo or whoever else that is a rebel without being a rebel fighter, not only do they not partake in the bonuses, but they don't add to them. So you're getting less stats on important characters like Wedge or Biggs or Mon Mothma or Pow or whoever else you have there, and it just makes the team a lot less viable, and you start to be able to do really stupid things against it like Solo with Nest. So that's definitely something that needs to be looked at. This one I have only seen once, and I hope I never see it ever again. And that is Shaak Ti under gas. At first, this kind of seems slightly viable because, oh, Shaak Ti, she doesn't have a leadership, obviously, but her unique is pretty clutch for clones. Whenever they take damage, they gain retribution, and she also gains turn meter, so, you know, kind of works well there. But if you look at Gas's kit, awkwardly enough, not here, but in Here With No Fear, there is this super giant clause. If all allies are 501st allies at the start of the battle, General Skywalker gains the following: 100% counter chance, 50% critical chance, and then this whole thing that he does at the end. This is a really big deal because one of the reasons that the gas team is so annoying, particularly on defense, is because every time you have to hit gas, and you have to because he has the lock taunt on himself, he's just going to hit you back. And he does quite a bit of damage every single time, and then it'll build over time depending on how many buffs you have on your team. So even if you don't have arc geared, even if you have like a gear 7 arc is better here than Shock just because of the amount of things that you're sacrificing in your gas. If you want to, go ahead and throw Shock in a Jedi team. She'll do fine there. You don't have to feel like you had any type of buyer's remorse. She's a good character. Just because you got gas doesn't mean Shock has to stay with clones. This one might actually be the most common that I see in kind of the modern meta. Again, not necessarily against my opponents, but just like screenshots. Starkiller, amazing character in really almost all game modes. But with or without his Omicron, he has this very specific set of allies that have to be with him. You have to have one Jedi, one Sith, one unaligned Force user Dark, and one unaligned Force user Light. If you do not meet those requirements, you lose pretty much everything. You lose critical damage, max health, you lose max protection, you lose speed. You are no longer immune to daze and stun. These are critical bonuses that really are what let Starkiller go all the way up to the top. And that's not even the GAC portions of any of this, but they also get all these added extra bonuses with that. And I see, particularly with dark side characters, I typically see a plethora of them that they're not supposed to be there. Either they cut out the Lusufu or they cut out the Jedi. We'll see a comp like this where Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader are two Sith. I know Darth Vader was a Jedi at one point. He's not now. That's not how this works. I saw a lot of teams in 3v3 that'll have like Crew and OG Kylo, both unaligned Force users. You don't have the Sith bonus there. Just don't do it. Even if, again, you have a crappy Jedi, put them in over Vader and they will do significantly better just because you're not going to be taking away all the really nice bonuses with Starkiller. And now the last one, this one, again, I haven't seen too many times, but basically when we put Ben Solo with Rey, you start to lose, or you start to gain a lot of really nice bonuses that are all based on your entire team being light side. And when you put characters like Malak, or really just any dark side character in there at all, you start to lose a lot of them. And I understand why people are doing this, because they're trying to stop Starkiller, because Malak has this generic ability in here where he just stops all Sith from gaining turn meter, really kind of regardless of who they are. So that's really a specific call out to Emperor Palpatine. So you stick Malak in there and you stop that. But then you start to open yourself up to a lot of other stuff. You no longer get the Dispel here. You don't get to deal true damage with Ben. This huge list of bonuses of like max health and speed and stuff like that all gone because all your allies were not light side at the beginning. It even messes with the Force Dyad, which is kind of Ben's whole thing, where he has instant defeat immunity at the beginning. It also messes a little bit. I can't remember which one of these it messes with. Someone can tell me in the comments. But it either ruins the you can't kill him while Rey is over 50% health or whatever, or it ruins the revive. I really want to say it's this, but the wording here is complicated. And I've actually, again, I've dealt with this team before on defense, and it ended up ruining one of those. So you kind of slightly weaken the Starkiller comp. I've even seen Starkiller beat this comp, and then you start to open up a ton of other ones. Like JML has always done pretty well, but it's even easier now. C's kind of still on the menu if they don't have the obscured Omicron, and it is the obscured one. I would have speak there. Yeah, it's the obscured Omicron. JMK, Jabba, Lord Vader. Like, again, just a lot of counters become a lot more easier when you let Bensil not be everything that it can be. So it's gonna be it for today. Let me know of some other team comps you guys have seen that are just not great, or things that we can avoid to be better in both Territory Wars and Grand Arena. But until the next time, guys, thank you for watching and stay awesome.